some point in your journey, you will be introduced to the shadow journey. And some of you are already on it and are already midway, if not completing the process. And the purpose of it is, in my opinion, is to integrate the duality, to integrate the shadow, to understand the power of the shadow. In fact, shadow is very, very powerful, in particular for protecting. It helps you in the dark. It helps you with dark entities or dark people or the unconscious, and especially other people's patterns. It helps you take no prisoners, no holds barred, and it helps you transcend and elevate above the simplistic view that predominates our culture, in my opinion. And this is speaking from somebody that strongly identified with the love and light journey. And I guess it makes sense because, and maybe you've experienced this too, when I started awakening, I started learning from people, and I started learning from popular broadcast and personalities, and this is culture, right? This is cultural programming. And I was very much influenced by certain philosophies. Buddhism, for example. I don't identify as Buddhist, but I've had people close to me who do, and so they were able to lend me some of their teachings to help me make sense of some of what was going on. And of course, in a lot of the religions and philosophies for spirituality, there is this endless well of forgiveness and love and light. And I referenced this before, like kind of playfully, that it's not all love, light, unicorn, and rainbows. And some of you have written to me about this as well. And so I know that I'm speaking to others that also understand this. Although it is advisable to forgive and to forget when you can and to let go, there are certain times that this is not actually the best course of action. And when we blindly follow recipes and we don't pay attention to when the recipe is incorrect for a particular circumstance, like if you're trying to make a cake and they call for 2 teaspoons or 2 tablespoons of salt when it should be a pinch of salt, then obviously if you're blindly following it, you're going to bake a cake. But the whole point of baking a cake is to enjoy it, either by yourself, not the whole cake, hopefully, unless you're into binge eating. I'm not a fan of it. Or to share with others. And so if you go through this entire manifestation process, making a cake with that much salt, at the end of it, you're not going to enjoy your manifestation. It's the same idea that all of the teachings that we receive need to pass through a filter of, does this make sense for where I'm at? Like sometimes, I don't want to get too far off, but sometimes I question some of the teachings of Dolores Cannon or Bashar, and I'm a big Bashar fan, and Abraham Hicks. I'm also a fan of Abraham Hicks, and some other notable thought leaders that have come before, because sometimes it seems like they are talking about a different system. They're talking about a different time, or they're talking about a different place. And Bashar's teachings, in my just personal opinion, are the most accurate for what I have intuitively ascertained. But there are still some times that I'm like, are you sure? Are you really sure? But most of the time, I would say like 80% of the time, I'm like, that resonates with my intuition. It passes the test, right? It passes the understanding test. Whereas some of the other teachings don't. And as a result, when we blindly follow those that have come before, And even if they're present day, right, we need to make sure that that standard of teaching or that system is actually applicable to where we are at, especially considering that there are multiple realities. And I believe that we receive broadcast from other reality layers, especially during times of transition like we're in right now. And as a result, we are going to see things in other worlds that we may not actually have access to or experience personally, or that may not actually be relevant for where we're going because, let's say, the timelines are splitting or the dimensions are splitting and we're going to go left and Bashar's group is going to go right. Although, I'd like to be with his group because, well, I don't know, like I've learned a lot, and I feel that there is a lot of congruence for where I'm going with some of the teachings of Bashar. But I don't know if we'll end up in the same place. But you get my point. So thinking about this possibility that you could receive teachings from people that have standards of behavior and recommendations for how you live your life and how you approach problem solving in your life is really, really important to keep in an expanded state, almost like an accordion, thinking as though they might be talking about a different place or a different time, especially if it's not resonating. And likewise, a lot of the teachings that are heavily love and light feel as though maybe it's because I'm not going to a love and light place. That could be true. It feels as though there's something incomplete. And for me, because I identified with the love and light ideology, it really shaped the way I solved problems, which was that somebody else was going to deal with it. And somebody else that wasn't love and light, if it was a dark problem. And, or that there was no problem, that I was just going to magic eraser it away. Which reminds me of one of the favorite quotes that I have. I reference it a lot, but I haven't in a while, so I'm going to do it again. Philip K. Dick, the sci-fi author, one of his books, Ubik, U-B-I-K, it's an excellent book, references this time period of, it's a space opera and corporations have taken over, and it's weird. It's super weird. It's a very short read. Highly recommended if you're into sci-fi. And it plays with the notion of reality, and the main character is having to sort of figure out like what's real, what isn't real. And in this particular setting, it's really murky and it's really challenging. And so one of the quotes in there is, reality is that which doesn't go away when you stop believing in it. Reality is that which does not go away when you stop believing in it. And so when we talk about belief being the center point of manifestation, I'm inclined to agree that most of the time it is, but sometimes it isn't. And this is where I disagree with some of the teachings, where they say it's all that it is. And I'm like, are you sure about that? Because if that's true, then we would never be surprised. We would never have cavities, because we would never have accidents. We would never have, because we operate in our day-to-day world as though those unfortunate things are not brewing behind us or in front of us, right? And then we wake up one day and our tooth hurts, or our filling has fallen out, and we're like, well, I didn't believe that I was going to wake up today and have a filling that fell out. So what happened here? If manifestation, if I am actually in control of my reality, if I'm creating my reality, right, that's the whole idea behind it, then there should be no negative surprises. When I was giving birth, I didn't expect that I was going to die twice due to preeclampsia. I didn't expect that. I didn't believe that that was going to happen. I believed that everything was going to be okay, and it was. But it was a little dicey there, a little touch and go. And I'm a single mom. So, like having to face the prospect of bringing this beautiful being into the world and having to abandon her, on day one, on day zero, it was really hard for me. And, but at the same time, I deeply felt that everything was going to be okay, and the doctor saved my life, and they did a fantastic job. But you get the point, right? I didn't manifest a horrific complication. And so there's something else to manifestation. That is the point. There's something else. There's something else to reality, that which when you don't believe in it, or you stop believing in it, and it still catches up to you, like that's the time to pay attention. And that is where the shadow integration and the shadow journey is highly, highly advisable to take seriously. Because when you, and this is a mistake that I made, and I know some of you are not going to make this mistake, but just in case there are other listeners who might, when you follow the love and light, eternal forgiveness and understanding and compassion journey and ideology, what happens is that you invite problems into your life that you don't have to go through. You invite lessons, you invite people, and people are like portals, right? And so they come with a reality with them, and then you join together and you merge together. Not complete identity merging. I'm not talking about codependency, but you merge a world, right? And then they're bringing along a certain subset of baggage and lessons and karma and things like that. And depending on how close you are with them, you're going to also be a recipient of that, if not just a bystander. And some of those consequences, some of those experiences are going to be really, really, really hard, particularly if they're at a certain point of evolution. And so by just loving and lighting everybody, you might be inclined to invite everybody in to your bedroom, everybody into your house, and it lowers the discernment, and it doesn't have to, right? But for a lot of people it does, myself included, because you're like, well, I see their potential and I'm manifesting and they're manifesting too. And we're going to manifest this amazing future together because they're a creator and they know they're a creator. They're on the spiritual awakening journey. So we're just going to manifest together this beautiful, yes, that does work. But there is also the shadow in people, which is why when you are in duality, you attract opposition to teach you how to transcend. The polarization effect is a real phenomenon from the masculine and the feminine, like how many of us are looking for our divine counterpart. Like the idea is that you integrate both energies within. But if you are in duality, then you will attract your opposite. And so the more light you are, the more you are going to attract darkness. And there are many people living that story right now. And there are many people that are on a twin flame journey that is a shadow twin flame journey. And I have an episode specifically on that you can check out if you haven't heard it. But the idea is that it is a reflection of you in your shadow. And what that means is the you that is suppressed, the you that is repressed. And it doesn't mean that it's going to be a perfect reflection. Like if you attract a serial killer, right? It doesn't mean that you're inside a serial killer. What it means is that you have innate properties inside of you related to behavioral paradigms that you're not seeing within. You're not understanding about yourself, about the way obsession works, or projection works, or wounding works, or fragility of the self, or splitting. And there are many, many ways that this can unpack itself. If you are an empath and you attract a narcissist, it doesn't mean that you're secretly a narcissist inside. What it means is that you have an identity breakdown and you're wanting to win the love of somebody that is not actually emotionally available, that also wants to win at all costs, right? It's like a different configuration of an inside shadow pattern that you have. You're trying to win the adoration and the affection of somebody that has a fair weather type of adoration and love, that it's shallow. It doesn't mean that you're shallow. It means that there is an identity fixture inside of you that is broken because you're loving the wrong people. And you're throwing your love at somebody who's throwing your love away. And so when you start to self-love and you let go of the notion that you can fix people and that you should stay because that's what love is and that's what forgiveness is. When you let go of some of those ideas, then you start to have boundaries. And this is where the shadow journey comes in, because until you have boundaries, you are going to attract people that show you why you need boundaries. This is my journey. Literally, it's absolutely true. It's like, I'm going to love and love and love. And the first people at your door are usually the ones that show you why you need to be mindful. And it doesn't mean that you need to barricade yourself and to, say, I'm never going to love again. And it doesn't mean you have to live in fear or anything like that. It means that you have your eyes open and that you can see in the dark. And this is what the shadow integration journey is all about. It's understanding the unconscious patterns, not only of yourself, but of the people that you are preferentially attracting. Who are you attracting and why are you attracting them? What are their patterns? What are the reflection points for you? And as you start to grow on your journey, you're going to find that you're still attracting people that are almost like outdated. And then you see how much you've grown, right? You have an opportunity to graduate, and then you have an opportunity to handle situations differently, to cut things off at the pass, to say, no, I'm not going to go there, or to draw a firm boundary and be like, no, this is it. I'm not doing this. Absolutely not. Or to just slip away, like that's an effective strategy too. And so it teaches you how to dance with the shadow of yourself and with others, and to take the powerful lessons of it and to integrate it into your conscious awareness, and to understand that there's actually a huge benefit and many, many gifts to the shadow journey. I love the shadow journey. I don't love it when I'm going through it, but I now seeing like the net effect of it, I really find it to be an incredibly valuable experience. It like levels you up in a way that I can't even describe. And so it really makes me think, looking back at myself when I was loving and lighting everybody, even when they didn't want me to, and even when they actually asked me not to. I had somebody do that. They're like, I don't want you to see me like this. I'm like, I'm just going to heal you and love you. And they're like, stop sending me meditations, please. Seriously. That's a real thing. And so when you stop fixing people that don't want to be fixed and not fixed by you, it opens you up to attract the right people into your life who actually see you and value you, instead of throwing yourself at people that are going to throw you away. So, listen, if you would like help with your shadow journey, if you just would like to analyze the patterns of your shadow and some of the shadow aspects that you have attracted into your life preferentially, feel free to reach out to me. And especially if you're interested in working together and shifting to a different type of a reality, at sacredjourneyproductions@gmail.com.